Good morning, everybody. We have a mostly lower trade in the grain markets here early on Monday morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Central Time. May corn futures down 3 3/4 at 5.54. May soybeans are down half a cent at 14.15 3/4. May Chicago wheat is down 2 cents at 6.25. May Kansas City wheat is down 3 3/4 at 5.81 3/4. May spring wheat down 3 3/4 at 6.23 1/4. Remember, guys, if you're listening on the podcast, much appreciated as always. Make sure you leave me a review if you have not already. Would really appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the like button. That would really help me out in regard to YouTube, the way that YouTube works, its algorithms. It'll help to spread these videos around a little bit. And remember, as always, if you need some assistance from me, go to my website. It is www.standardgrain.com. Go to that website, click on Grain Marketing Plan here in the upper right-hand corner. For $49 a month, I offer a subscription service. It includes a whole bunch of stuff. It includes my morning email, which goes out every business day at 6:30 a.m. Central Time. That includes all my grain marketing recommendations, cash sales broken down by crop year, by percentage, all sorts of different stuff regarding capturing carry, spreads, basis, all that sort of stuff. There's a text messaging service that goes along with that, consulting. A new service that I've included here just as of late are subscriber-only videos. So if you like these videos, but if you want some more maybe in-depth stuff, I'm doing subscriber-only videos that are going out 3 to 4 times a week now, and that's something I'm really going to expand here moving forward. So if you're interested in that, give this deal a shot. You can cancel it at any time. Remember, no other fee, no other obligation whatsoever. To get into the headlines here this morning, China bought more old crop U.S. corn on Friday. USDA reported a flash sale Friday morning of 800,000 metric tons. There were flash sales of old crop corn to China on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday last week for a grand total of 3.867 million metric tons. That's about 153 million bushels of corn sold to China in just 1 week. China has now booked a total of 23.2 million metric tons of U.S. corn for delivery during the current marketing year. That's 915 million bushels. Now, the concern here, if there is a concern, is shipments. And if you've been paying attention, you've heard a lot of people talk about this already. U.S. exporters have only shipped about a third of these total sales to China, and perhaps even less if we're to assume that some of these unknown sales are also headed to China, which I imagine that some of them will be. So some traders are concerned that the shipping pace is an issue. I don't know if it's a huge cause for concern. I think that everything that's going on is the export situation to some extent is transparent. We know the sales, we know the shipments, the market is where it is. USDA is going to have to come up with its export projection and down with its carryout projection in all likelihood. So a lot of that's baked into the cake already, in my opinion. China soybean imports from Brazil were down sharply in January and February versus last year. This is all a result of a late planting season and then a late harvest in Brazil. Imports of Brazilian beans in January, February into China were down 80% versus the same period last year, but I believe you will see a sharp increase in March and April. They're shipping beans out of Brazil pretty aggressively now that harvest is pushing forward here. Speaking of that, Brazil will be mostly dry during the next week. Rains in Argentina during that same time frame will be mostly normal. Farmers in Brazil are in the process of kind of wrapping up soybean harvest and planting that second corn crop. Harvest in Mato Grosso is almost done. They were 92% done as of last week with beans. Other areas are slower, but pushing forward. And with this drier forecast, they should make some big progress. Rains over the next week could be a big deal in Argentina. March can be a big pod filling month for soybeans in some areas. You've got some early harvest of soybeans in Argentina as well. It's already begun. Argentina corn harvest moving forward. Yields in both of those crops should be reduced quite a bit this year due to drought. Large speculators continue to hold what I would call an extreme net long in the corn market. Funds were estimated to be net long 366,000 contracts at Friday's close in the corn. That is larger than anything we saw in 2012. You've got to go back to 2010, 2011 to see that kind of length. Funds also hold what I would call a hefty but not extreme net long in the soybean market and a small net short in the SRW wheat market. I'm going to throw a chart up on my screen here. This is a combined fund length across corn, soybeans, and SRW wheat. It's been sitting around this 500,000 mark for a while now, and that's pretty extreme historically. This chart that's on my screen goes back to 2007, I believe, and we've only been above this sort of level on what, three or four other occasions, once in 2014 very briefly, 2012 during the drought, and then 2010, 2011. So funds are aggressively net long the grain complex, corn to the most significant extent than soybeans, and they were actually estimated to be net short a little bit of SRW wheat at Friday's close. If you like this chart, this is a deal that I have in my newsletter every Monday morning. I have what I call the fund tracker charts, and I have the corn chart, the soybean chart, the wheat chart, and then the combined positions every Monday morning following that CFTC report as part of that subscription service. In addition to that, more rain is headed to the western corn belt. Much of western Iowa and a good chunk of Nebraska, like the eastern, maybe third to two, or two, half to two-thirds. We'll see at least 2 inches of rain during the next 10 days, according to this morning's GFS model. The recent shift toward a wetter pattern has really been a drought-busting event in some of these areas. There are parts of Nebraska that will have the wettest March on record after being in this like big-time drought for several months, and this has totally flip-flopped because you went from an incredibly dry situation to a situation where in some of these areas, if the rains continue, you could even see planting delays as a result of that. It may be a little bit early to talk about that with any real meaning, but just kind of keep that in mind. There's a lot more rain headed for these areas. I mean, 2 inches during the next 10 days is what the models are calling for this morning. Notably dry areas include and continue to include North Dakota and a good chunk of South Dakota. Little relief expected in those areas. It's been incredibly dry up north. Cattle market, we had a cattle on feed report out on Friday. It was largely neutral. Cattle on feed, like 101. They were looking for maybe something slightly higher than that, but on par with expectations. Placements on par with expectations. Marketing's on par with expectations. Cash cattle, again, were like 114 last week, so really nothing to write home about there. The outside markets here this morning, pretty quiet. We've got the Dow Jones up 5 points, S&P's up 11, gold's down $3, U.S. dollar's down just a little bit, crude oil's down 6 cents, 61.36 in the April WTI, which goes off today. The May board's at 61.40. The bonds are up more than a full handle. If you guys need some more information from me, as always, check out my website, check out that subscription service. Everybody have a great week. I'll talk to you a little bit later.